and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Hello, this is Buddy C. Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today we have Drew. Good to have you, Drew.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Drew and I will have a conversation today about how the Tao Te Ching relates to our personal recovery. We're going to be talking about the 56th verse of the Tao Te Ching. For any announcements, go to buddyc.org. Resources there for you. Lots of things. Take advantage of that if it's something that could benefit you or a sponsee, or maybe your sponsor needs some encouragement. Lots of good resources there. Okay, the 56th verse. Drew, why don't you read Stephen Mitchell and I'll read Jonathan Starr.
Those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know. Close your mouth, block off your senses, blunt your sharpness, untie your knots, soften your glare, settle your dust. This is the primal identity. Be like the Tao. It can't be approached or withdrawn from, benefited or harmed, honored or brought into disgrace. It gives itself up continually. That's why it endures.
One who speaks does not know. One who knows does not speak. Shut the mouth, close the gates, blunt the sharpness, loosen the knots, temper the glare. Become one with the dust of the world. This is called the secret embrace. One who knows the secret is not moved by attachment or aversion, swayed by profit or loss, nor touched by honor or disgrace. He is far beyond the cares of men, yet comes to hold the dearest place in their hearts. You know, we hear this quote a lot from the first little stanza. Those who know don't talk, and those who talk don't know. You mentioned before the podcast, and maybe they know, so they're not here to talk about it. Could be it. That was good. It doesn't say those who understand, those who know. Don't you think that's a little different? Or those who have learned? Does it say those who have learned don't talk, but those who know?
What do you think the difference is between those?
I was going to look up a definition of what know means. K-N-O-W, know. Perceive, to perceive the truth, to be certain, to become aware, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, right? Step 11, become aware. We start to know.
What that kind of brings to my mind is letting your actions do the talking.
Yeah.
Rather than just, me telling people how to live or, telling people what they should do, how they should act, what they should think. Just kind of let people do their own thing. And, if people ask for my advice, I can give it to them, but, I don't need to go butting in, imposing my will on others or trying to make people do what I think they should do. Just kind of, this reminds me of another phrase in the Tao Te Ching. I don't remember what chapter it is, but the phrase to be a pattern for the world.
Yes.
I always liked that one. That always stood out to me. So, just going out into the world and doing what's right, letting those actions do the talking for me.
And sharing something, not only recovery, but other things from a place of knowing rather than a place of lecturing.
Mm-hmm. I know in my own personal history, I stopped drinking about 13 years ago or so. And the woman I was dating, her friend group was a lot of, rather heavy drinkers. That was the one thing they all pretty much had in common, was they all really enjoyed drinking. So that was community I hung around with for a while. And a couple of the guys gave me a really hard time about it. Just, telling me they didn't trust me or, just making fun of me, excluding me from conversations, stuff like that. And, I never said anything to him about alcohol. I never talked to him about it. I never lectured. I never did anything like that. And within a few months, really each of the guys who'd given me a hard time about it, they came up to me personally and said, hey, I kind of admire how you can, just go through everything and, not drink. You can come to parties or, go out to dinner or, just hang out with us and, you don't drink. And, I'd kind of like to try that sometime. I just don't know how. And we talked about it. I ended that relationship. I don't talk to those people anymore. I don't know if they stopped drinking or just moderated or, they're drinking more than ever. I have no idea. But I do know that they wouldn't have had that curiosity and they wouldn't have talked to me about it if I'd been lecturing them about it. If I'd been scolding them or sitting down with them, telling them you need to do this, you need to do that, just kind of letting my actions of just being myself and, not having to use anything, just kind of stirred up something in them. So that's what this reminded me of.
How about this? Could another way to say that phrase, one who lectures does not have experience, and the one that has experience does not have to lecture.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good real world way to put that.
Yeah. I want to read my interpretation. It's not a translation. Email me at info@buddyc.org and I'll send you a copy of my interpretation of the Tao Te Ching, a PDF of that. You can get samples of that at buddyc.org, and you can buy the paperback at Amazon if you so desire, but I'd be happy to send you the PDF at no charge. The 56th verse, the mystical unity. The one who knows how to love does not have to speak. The one who is fearful speaks continually. Sit in silence until sharpness becomes dull. Allow complexity in personal relationships to loosen without your interference. Let dust settle so you can see clearly what is already there. Eventually, you'll realize you are me and I am you, the mystical unity. Man, what a gift. That did not come from my intellect. What we're talking about today, it did not. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, the one that's fearful speaks continually.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Like they're always trying to need to convince themselves.
Right. Exactly. And the one who knows how to love does not have to speak. Does not have to convince you of anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Close
your mouth, block your senses, blunt your sharpness, untie your knot, soften the glare, settle your dust. Is all that forms of letting go and stopping the interference, I think?
Mm-hmm. Accepting what is.
Yeah. Stepping out of the way, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Stopping your self-effort.
Yeah. Block off your senses reminds me of chapter 12, where it specifically mentioned all of the senses. Go to that real quick.
Sure.
Colors blind the eye, sounds deafen the ear, flavors numb the taste, thoughts weaken the mind, desires wither the heart. The master observes the world but trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go. His heart is open as the sky. I feel like this stanza ties to chapter 12 really well.
Yes, it does. That's good. Thank you.
A way to put blocking off your senses into action, looking at each individual sins.
And also a part of that too, I think, Drew, is closing the mouth could be, are my comments going to add to what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to comprehend through the senses a solution? Blunt the sharpness. Is my hyperintelligence going to really help this situation?
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of throughout my whole life of overthinking things, and
Yes.
Just feel like the simpler I can keep it, the better it goes. Keep it simple, stupid.
The phrase that we attribute to Craig: stop thinking and end your problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That really does apply. Untie the knots. The knots at that time had to do with counting and a lot to do with finances.
Mm-hmm.
So there's several things you could take away from the knots, but the knots were used for more than what we think of as knots to tie something.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, you're right. Cultures all across the world use knots as like accounting methods.
Yes.
So, a knot could easily be representative of a debt that somebody owes you.
Sure could.
And if you can, forgive a debt, whether it's financial or personal, then that's just one less thing to carry around with you, one less resentment to have over somebody if they haven't repaid you a debt that you think that they owe you, whether they know it or not.
That's good. Thank you. Could have all kinds of connotations. Soften the glare and finally settle the dust. Takes me back to the phrase in the Tao Te Ching of, can you allow the dust to settle so the right answer will appear by itself? Just allowing the dust to settle. Just being patient. Just waiting. Just pausing. Had a friend of mine in recovery the other day that did not know how to respond to a situation. I use this tool all of the time, probably my most used tool. I said, why don't you just sit with that and be open to a solution outside of your intellect and just wait until the right answer appears? Don't do nothing right now. Yeah. Don't do anything? I said, no. And he was like, he didn't know what
Mm-hmm.
he didn't know what to do. I said, don't do anything. Just wait. And when the right answer shows itself, then go that direction. Can't always do that, but you can internally, you can do that even in situations that you have to make decisions about. You can that are immediate. You can at least stop and pause and be open to a solution other than what you're thinking, what you've come up with yourself, and then move forward. You can at least do that. That doesn't take any time at all.
But patience is hard. Patience is so hard sometimes. But that's how you let the dust settle, like like shaking a snow globe. You can't get the snow in the snow globe to settle by shaking it more. It's only by just letting it sit, letting it all take its place.
So what is our primal identity? Is to do these things, to soften the glare, and it says here in the star, this is the secret embrace. Would primal be your most basic? Is that what I'm thinking on primal? Is that right?
That's what I get from it. The what takes you away from your most basic, your true nature. That's kind of a phrase that comes to mind with primal identity.
Original.
But original nature. Yeah, your original self. What takes you away from that is your misconceptions, your everything that you're perceiving, all your thoughts, all your resentments, your worries, your fears, your focus on unsensual pleasures or pains, whatever's taking you out of the moment. your your pride of your mental sharpness, the pride you have for your cleverness, thinking, overthinking things, trying to think your way into right acting rather than acting your way into right thinking. I think all of that takes you away from your true self. That's what this is telling me.
Also, too, it says that all of this, another way to translate that primal identity is this is the mystical oneness. This is the oneness of all things.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how we recognize the non-duality of life. It's closing the mouth, blocking the senses, blunting the sharpness, untying the knot, soften the glare, settle your dust, block off the
That is,
senses. I'm sorry.
just gonna say that is when I feel more connected with everybody else, more connected with the world. Is when I can do all that. When I'm caught up in senses and chasing after senses or focusing on them, or caught up in thoughts, that's when I am more isolated and kind of perceive myself as separate from everyone else, and that's what gets me into trouble.
Derek Lynn translated that block off the senses as shut the doors. Thought that's good. Now MacDonald, I like the way he translated these. Stop talking, meditate in silence, blunt your sharpness, release your worries, harmonize your inner light, and become one with the dust. Man, that's good.
Mm-hmm. And become one with the dust is interesting.
Now, Hogan takes it a little further. Guys, there's a link in the notes every week to go to an online version of the Tao Te Ching that has about 9 different versions. And so you can look at these side by side. That's what I'm looking at. It's a free link. This is Hogan's version of those things. Shut your mouth. Be still. Relax. Let go of your worries. Stay out of the spotlight. So instead of dim the glare, release your worries or stay out of the spotlight. Then that last little phrase of the dust, he says, be at one with the world as mix the dust or settle your dust. Be at one with the world.
That's a good message. I like the dust metaphor. I like the previous one you mentioned about being one with the dust. How I see what I'm taking from that one is the dust kind of being the thoughts that I'm fighting. Maybe in terms of recovery, maybe cravings or thoughts about using. Instead of fighting those thoughts, fighting those feelings, trying to prevent them from ever coming back. If I can accept that there are times that they will come back, and then when they are there, accept that they are there, and think about what are they telling me right now. There's there's some need inside myself to escape from whatever I'm currently thinking or feeling. What is this telling me? Using those uncomfortable thoughts or feelings to get to a more still place, a more serene place, rather than fighting those things. Why are they coming up? I haven't had a drink for 13 years. Why am I, why is it in my mind right now? I'm a failure for still having these thoughts after all this time. Trying to get to the root of, okay, what's really going on in me right now? This is a message to me. I need to sit. I need to get right with myself. So yeah, I like being one with the dust. So I think that can apply to recovery really well.
Yeah. I said, let dust settle so you can see clearly what is already there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. Let's move to the last stanza, unless you have anything else there, Drew.
No.
Be like the Tao. This is Mitchell. Be like the Tao. It can't be approached or withdrawn from, benefited or harmed, honored or brought into disgrace. So you can't, there's no division. That's kind of like, I've been thinking about this lately. Drew, let's say you do something heroic. You're riding your bicycle. You're on your way to pickleball, which happens. You go to pickleball. I don't know if you drive or ride your bike or whatever. You ride your bicycle to pickleball?
I haven't. I've walked to it.
You're walking to pickleball. Okay. And all of a sudden, a house starts smoldering and is on fire. You run in and save the family. Okay. Including the girl's little teddy bear. All right. So when they honor you, they have a whole day to honor Drew. All right. And they, at the pickleball courts, actually, all your pickleball friends help because it's right in that area. And so they call you up to honor you. They don't say, we want to honor Drew's hands that grabbed the child and, blah, blah, blah. Or we want to honor Drew's legs because they carried him in, and that's silly.
Mm-hmm.
They just honor Drew, right? Well, for me to think that I am separate from the rest of this moment is the same kind of thing, because I'm no more. And that goes into humility too. And that's a reason that it's getting easier not to take credit, not to let honor sway me, is because I realize that I'm just part of the whole. There's nothing here to honor or dishonor. And moving past that whole, make me feel I'm better than you, or make me feel I'm worse than you, or whatever the case. All of that, all those things bring duality. Everything does. When we're benefited or harmed, there's dual thinking going on there. Brought to disgrace, valued or degraded. That's all divisive. So what do you do about that if we're thinking in a dualistic way? Well, it starts with that second stanza. And I'm back to McDonald again. Let's use this little punch list, more or less. Can I just stop talking so much? Can I stop injecting myself into conversations that are not mine? Can I meditate in silence just a little bit and let myself sit with what's going on instead of thinking I've got to be in there controlling every little thing? I realized one day that my thinking, I always thought that my excessive work and my input and all that caused things to be different. One day I realized that most of my efforts were doing absolutely no good whatsoever. That I could have just as easily sat back and let things happen. This was way before recovery. What do I do about that? I didn't know what to do about it, but I knew I needed to back off, but having the ability to back off was not there. Release my worries, harmonize the inner light, and let the dust settle. If I do those things, then I have the possibility, and I'm saying that's being like the Tao, I have the possibility of not getting carried away by benefit or harm or value or being degraded. And I love the way that Mitchell does that last phrase. It, being the Tao, gives itself up continually. That's why it endures. So when I let go rather than get dragged, that's how I endure, really. It's not through all these other things. It's not by excessive talking. Starting at the beginning, it's not by excessive talking, that's for sure, or excessive intellectual thinking and input and all those things. It's kind of a reverse, too. We can't know unless we're giving ourselves up. Not just every now and then, but if we want to know all the time, we need to continually give ourselves up.
And I know that when I'm giving myself up, I'm much less self-centered, in terms of thinking about myself, putting my focus on myself, wanting to get that honor, wanting to avoid any criticism, speaking or acting for the purpose of getting a benefit, speaking or acting for the purpose of avoiding punishment, avoiding harm, trying to talk my way, smooth talk my way out of things, rather than apologizing if I've caused harm, or, speaking the truth, even if it might not be to my, my immediate in the moment benefit. So there was a phrase at my old office: "Fess up if you mess up." The cover up is worse than the crime.
Right.
There are all sorts of those phrases about, just be honest, just, tell the truth. It's okay. We all make mistakes. You don't always have to be perfect. You don't always have to be honored. You don't always have to avoid, a little bit of, criticism. So when I can act in the right way, speak in the right way, be honest, focusing more on just doing the right thing rather than what people think about me. That definitely helps me go through the day much easier than if I'm trying to get accolades or trying to, it is a form of manipulate people into thinking about me a certain way. I know that if I can just accept a compliment and move on without, living for compliments, if I can accept a criticism without, feeling like it's the end of the world or taking it personally, learning from it, what is this person telling me? And, I may come to find that they're not really telling me anything about myself. They're telling me something more about themselves, and that's something that can be more valuable for me to learn than, stewing about a criticism I think was unjustly given. Learning about somebody else by what they're telling me. So yeah, softening the glare, blunting the sharpness, that helps with all of that. Not talking, and I know that doesn't mean just stay silent, but not defending myself, not attacking, not using my words as a weapon or a shield. Yeah, I love how this chapter all ties together with that.
Also, Drew, I can't close my mouth unless I'm practicing some form of compassionate living.
Mm-hmm.
All those are a result of living compassionately. That's the real work. When it says be like the Tao, that's how the Tao operates. That's how we're to operate. That's how we can even do those things, is choosing love over fear, really.
And choosing really listening.
Yes.
I feel like that's such a skill that is not really in very great supply these days. It's just actually really listening, and that's a gift that you can give to somebody. I know when I've sat and listened to somebody, just actually listen to what they're saying, and hear their stories, hear what they're telling me, ask actual real follow-up questions that I'm curious about. Tell me more about that you just mentioned, or how did that make you feel? What did you learn from that? You can't listen to somebody if your mind's preoccupied with anything else, whether it's yourself or things that are coming at you through your senses. Learning how to meditate in silence, that's a great way for me to build that listening skill.
Yeah, it takes a level of giving myself up to do any of those. Had a lady in AA when I was first getting sober. She said, instead of let go and let God, it's let go or get dragged.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't learn how to stop talking, observe some silence, release our worries, all those things, we're going to get dragged. Getting dragged is no fun.
No, I've been there where, my actions are just really out of my control, and I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't experienced it. But that's one of the scariest parts of addiction is when you're watching yourself do things that you don't want to do. You know you don't want to do it, and you're doing it anyway. And you're telling yourself not to, but you're doing it anyway. You are getting dragged, and letting go is the only solution. It's hard, but that is the only solution.
Giving myself up continually, not just every now and then, continually. That's true endurance, true harmony with the Tao. I like the way Starr says that. He says, he, the one who practices the Tao, is far beyond the cares of men, yet comes to hold the dearest place in their hearts. That's a level of honor that can't be earned. That's the true results of compassionate living, Good conversation. Thank you, Drew. Anything to add, sir?
Very good. No, I think we went through this one really well. I'm going to stop talking about it.
You think we've talked enough? Okay, I agree. So we'll stop there. So, you have a great week, and hope to see you next week, my friend. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.